So how do you grow revenue? You need to be able to target the right markets with the right product offerings, where there is a right product market and go to market fit, with the right sales capacities, with the right marketing strategies. What matters is what is the customer trying to do, or what is the prospect trying to do, and how do you make sure you resonate your offering with that customer at the right time and the right place. And that's the intelligence that HG Insights provides. This is absolutely the perfect time to look at data and intelligence as the right tool to guide your decisions, right? So develop your growth playbooks, churn reduction playbooks, customer retention playbooks, however you want to call it, as your strategic priorities.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Tech Leaders Playbook. Today we are joined by Rohini Kasturi, the CEO of HG Insights, a leading data intelligence company that helps businesses make smarter decisions. They work with a ton of Fortune 500 companies and major cloud providers. Let's jump into your journey. Rohini, first of all, thank you for being here. Data is a huge topic. Everybody's talking about data. Data has been a big topic for many, many years, but now it's used in the context of AI, and AI needs data. So how did you get to this point? Tell me a little bit about your journey and how you got into the data world.
Yeah, Avetis, first of all, thanks for having me on your show. Good to be here and talking to everyone here. Yeah, I've been in the software industry last 25 plus years. Significant portion of my time focusing on security companies, infrastructure, middleware type software companies. But then switched into data management. I was running a business unit at Veritas several years ago, focused on information management and information governance. And then, of course, did my own startup, which was the first hybrid cloud platform company that was acquired by Veritas.
Oh, wow.
I was a chief product officer at a couple of companies. Prior to joining HG, I was the chief product officer at SolarWinds, which was a public company where I led a global organization doing a significant transformation of the product portfolio. And we were a customer of HG Insights before I joined the business.
Oh.
And we got intrigued by all the intelligence that HG has, and we said that can help revenue growth. That's how I got into HG Insights.
Nice. What are some defining moments in your career? You worked with some startups, you worked with some medium-sized company and some huge companies. What have you learned being in leadership in all three types of companies?
See, my defining moments, I think I have been fortunate to be like the youngest person developing products for my first 10 years of the career. Starting with my first product, we developed cell phone features in Bell Labs, in Lucent Bell Labs, back in the 90s. And I was the youngest guy on the team, surrounded with a lot of smartest senior and PhDs, etc. That continued for a while, during which time I gained a lot of technical strength and ways to collaborate with senior people. And then leading large teams at Juniper was one journey for me for several years. And then doing my own startup, call it defining the first hybrid cloud platform company in the industry, was very unique because I had to learn all facets of business. But then I have done GM roles, then private equity companies, public companies, etc. So yeah, I think there have been numerous lessons learned along the journey, surrounding with different types of people, cultures, leading global teams. So very fortunate to be having the opportunities I've had.
What's the one biggest kind of lesson in all these years working with these different companies?
So I think one biggest lesson for me is doing a startup back in 2013 when we defined the first hybrid cloud platform company. It was a learning of on the people front. It was learning on the market front, on where to innovate, how to innovate. We were a little early to the market in terms of defining hybrid cloud. So we had to pivot our go-to-market strategy to create that product market fit. And then we went through a growth phase as well. So there have been numerous learnings during my startup days, Avetis.
Got it. I bet that's why people love startups, because the learning is just nonstop. Fortunately, so much where you're like, enough learning. Let's just win. Enough already. You're a data expert, so let's jump into data. What's been the biggest shift in the last few years of how companies approach data and how they're using it for AI?
Yeah, no, another fantastic question. I still remember when I joined Veritas back in 2016, 2017. We used to talk about the era of information. We used to say, hey, data is the underpinning, but what you need is information from the data and insights from the data. And what has changed in the last 24 months is with AI being very useful in terms of learning about the data and discovering, we are now moving to the era of intelligence. So I would call it we are moving from the era of data to information management to the era of intelligence, where we all are enamored with so much data everywhere. Any type of role you pick, anything that we do every day, we are enamored with data. But it's what matters is just in time intelligence that you need for that context, for that meeting, for anything that you need. And you need that precise intelligence. And that's where we are heading in the next few years.
And you need it fast,
You
right?
need it at your fingertips. In essence, you need context aware, real time, aggregated intelligence that can provide you the right information for that purpose. So that's kind of what we
And
need.
accurate data. I'm guessing accuracy's got to be really, really up there because it could be beautifully visualized. It could be quickly pulled together and presented in a beautiful way. But if the data is slightly off more than 1% or 2, the whole thing goes out the
Yeah,
window.
totally. It's data quality matters, data coverage matters, the precision matters, and more importantly, the context matters too.
That's a good word, precision for that. Data has to be precision, especially in medical decisions, right? When there could be life or death decisions. Companies are swimming in data, right?
Yeah.
But not all of it is useful. In fact, there's so much noise. How can leaders separate signal from noise?
Yeah, I think the key is to understand what problem are you solving, right? First and foremost, I mean, might sound like common sense, right? What is the business problem that you're solving, and what information or data can be the underpinning that will be needed to derive the right intelligence for that context or for that use case, right? So a good example is, for example, you're trying to drive, go-to-market efficiencies as an example. When you want to try go-to-market efficiencies, you want data that is more related to sales, marketing, revenue operations, and that type of intelligence that can help drive that go-to-market efficiency, right? So what matters is there the right data set that's underpinning to provide the right intelligence for that use case.
Rohini, give us a example of how this stuff could drive growth. Like, give
Yeah.
me a company, a type of company, and how they use this data, specifically HG's data, and what they did with it, and how it helped them grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
No,
that's
I
all
do.
the only reason we care about data, right? Is for decision making and all that. So,
Yeah, no, fantastic. So I think one of the biggest things that is on many CEOs' mind, CROs' mind, or CXOs' mind really is how do I grow revenue? How do I drive operational efficiencies? How do I retain my existing customers, right? So those are the three problems on everybody's mind. And if you look at it, so how do you grow revenue? You need to be able to target the right markets with the right product offerings, where there is a right product market and go to market fit, with the right sales capacities, with the right marketing strategies, right? So that's kind of what you need to be very precise in terms of revenue growth, in terms of being efficient, etc. Right? So, for example, what HG Insights provides is it provides a lot of intelligence about the customers and the prospects. For example, it tells everything about what products the customers are using, how much are they spending, where are they investing, are they trying out products right now, are there some contracts coming up for renewal. What we do is we take all these types of intelligence that we have mined over 15 years now. It's roughly 30 petabytes of data that we mine.
wow.
We bring all of that together into, we apply AI, do correlation, etc. And we give precise intelligence for marketing teams. For example, let's say marketing team is targeting a set of prospects. Instead of targeting them with a broad message, what you do is you take all this intelligence, you create a set of cohorts, and say one cohort of customers I'm going to target with cost reduction message because maybe that's what they care about. The other cohort you might be targeting with an AI message or AI differentiation. The third cohort you might be targeting about something else or competitive differentiation, etc. Right? So what matters is what is the customer trying to do or what is the prospect trying to do, and how do you make sure you resonate your offering with that customer at the right time and the right place. And that's the intelligence that HG Insights provides.
Well, I feel like the only thing people respond to is a very, very tailored message, not only talking to the company's problems but also their own problem. Because Rohini is not a company. Rohini is the CEO of this company. He's got his own challenges, but he's got his own opportunities and his own career growth. Specifically, if it was one of your directors or vice presidents, each one has different goals. And yes, it should be aligned to the company's vision, but it is slightly different. So I feel like that tailored data and approach could be, huge.
100%.
Right. Rohini, is all of your data structured data that you're getting from somewhere, or is it also signals from social and unstructured data from all of what people are saying on Reddit? Like, tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic question. So 80% of our data is proprietary data. It's behind the firewall data that we have mined, collected from, like I said, 55 odd sources over a period of years. So we even have historical trending of a data. For example, take any customer, like a technology customer or like a Pfizer as an example, medical company.
Sure.
We can tell what are the products that they have had for the last 5 years, what technologies did they adopt, what are they adopting right now. Let's say if somebody is trying to sell to Pfizer, let's say Microsoft is trying to sell to Pfizer, they can know what are the products that they have been adopting, what is the current interest, and which group within Pfizer is doing it. So 80% of our data is proprietary. We also, like many folks, we get a snapshot of the internet, which we use as one of the data sources, which is in the 20% of the data feed. But most of our data is proprietary. So that's why we have the depth and the breadth, and we consistently win in hyperscalers and Fortune 500 B2B companies, because we do this long 6-month POCs. We repeatedly win and demonstrate how it helps marketing, how it helps RevOps, how it helps sales and strategy teams.
That's huge. For companies looking to become more data driven, where do they start? I mean, most of us already have a ton of data. It's just in so many different places, and some of it is beautifully kept up, some of it is dirty. Like, where do we start?
Yeah. So I think the first starting point for any business leader who want to be data driven is defining this. I call it the concept of growth playbook. You want to grow your business, you want to retain customers, you want to get operational efficiencies. Let's say one of those three are your objectives, or all three, for example. You create a growth playbook for your company, and that growth playbook is what everyone should sing off of. For example, your strategy team should be using the same growth playbook, marketing should be using the same, RevOps should be using it. For example, let's say customer retention is the only priority, let's say, for your company. Okay, not growth of new customers, not operational efficiency, nothing. Now, what is a growth playbook? And you need to get the intelligence that supports that growth initiative, right? And that should be based on real-time data. So, for example, a lot of companies, when they develop the growth playbook, they start off with high-level data from Gartner or IDC. Hey, I want to know the TAM and CAGR.
Sure.
Okay, but the challenge there is it's too high level, right? Hey, $20 billion TAM, 30% CAGR. Okay,
Every startup that's ever pitched to me
right?
has a $20 billion TAM.
Exactly, right? So what do you do with it? But hey, your business is $100 million or $10 million or $3 billion. How do you go capture this $20 billion? What you need more precise intelligence at an account level that contributes and explains this TAM. And you should be able to open it up and see what makes sense for your company. Hey, do my products fit? Let's say my TAM in Brazil is $3 billion. Do I even have a sales team there? Do my products resonate in Brazil? Right? Do I have the right salespeople? Do I have the right marketing strategies? When I start opening up the TAM at an account level, based on my own products and customer profile, then what happens is suddenly now your TAM, $20 billion TAM, becomes $20 million. Because let's say you're a startup, like you said. Startup can have a $20 billion TAM, but the actual addressable market, or the market that they can obtain, is going to be $10 million, for example, right? But again, how do you hyper focus and get the $10 million? So it's important to define the growth playbook based on data and intelligence. And that's kind of where Hedge Insights comes in and helps the customer start the journey.
Rohini, can you give us that exact example? So how did this $20 billion TAM, let's say, become $10 million? Like, give us the kind of the chunking down that you did that potentially your data would help.
Yeah, no, excellent question. So, first is everyone has a vision of the company, and the vision leads to the TAM, right? Hey, I want to build the world's greatest security company, right? Okay, that's then I take all the TAM or opportunity for the security market, and it becomes total addressable market, right? That could be $20 billion. But my serviceable addressable market is really dependent on my product offerings and what I have as readiness. Like, hey, I might have a set of features which are AI security features that becomes my serviceable addressable market, right? That's the next level of phasing. The third one is serviceable obtainable market, which is for this year. Let's say I'm planning based on my product strategy, based on my go to market strategy, based on the actual resources that I have. Let's say even market is 100 million. But if you don't have 100 salespeople or
Yeah.
whatever X number of salespeople to go reach that customers and the right marketing strategy, there is no way to obtain it. So you slice it down even further based on the your resourcing and your product market fit. So some has to do with the actual market, but you want to start understanding all the customers that contribute to the TAM. But let's say you identify one customer, which is NetApp as a customer. Okay. You want to go to NetApp. But when you start looking at all the products, when you say, hey, NetApp is already using similar products, NetApp is not spending in this market. Let's say if you know that, then what you can do is you can quickly exclude that from your obtainable market and say, I want to be hyper focused on obtaining what I can accomplish. And that's kind of how you kind of slice and dice with the intelligence. So that's where you move from TAM to SAM, serviceable addressable market, to serviceable obtainable market, right, which is SOM. And you do it based on your ICP, which is your ideal customer profile and go to market fit. And that way, what happens is now that you are very focused on these 300 customers, you can be very targeted. Like, what do I tell them from marketing? What
Love
do I
that.
tell them from
Well,
sales?
you took something huge that I don't even know how to digest, right? I don't even know where to start, down to, hey, here's the 300 companies that if you tailor your message to these 300 people or 300 companies, you can potentially get to your $10 million today, which will let you raise your Series A or Series B and really be on your way. But this is all you should go after, right? Don't worry about 20 billion. Don't worry about the 40,000 companies. You're not ready for them, and your features aren't enough for them for right now, right? Your team isn't big enough. That's huge. That's very helpful. That's what I was hoping for. Rohini, AI is changing everything from sales forecasting to hiring to everything. What are the areas that you're seeing the biggest impact right now with AI?
So I think we have defined our own AI strategy in the company into two parts. There is a revenue growth part. There is a optimization, call it the resource optimization or efficiency gains, productivity efficiency gains. Right. One is how do you have the same set of teams get 30-40% more productive. For example, a quick easy example that everybody is aware of is GitHub Copilot, which can generate code to help developers accelerate their time to write code, right? So that improves productivity anywhere from 20 to 40% as an example. Okay, I could be an SDR doing calls to the customer. What kind of intelligence will help me have a much faster time to reaching the customer, right? So there are a lot of productivity levers that can be gained through AI. There are many tools that are constantly evolving, and there are no winners yet because everybody started off in the last 12 months, right, developing applications. So there's a lot to be seen. The other big part is your revenue growth and retention, right? When you at the end of it, efficiencies are great, but what any business cares about is how do I drive revenue growth? And what matters is if you want to drive revenue growth with your existing capacity, with your existing budgets, you got to be hyper focused, hyper targeted. that is where you need all the intelligence to be like driving revenue growth and retention.
For all the salespeople out there, business development people, is anyone picking up their phone? You're the one with the data. Is anyone actually picking up their phone or checking their emails? And how should that people be reached, right? How do decision
Yeah.
makers get reached right now without being annoying, without just sending the same bullshit message, without sending me an AI bot? Like, what is from your data? What are you seeing that's effective when you're reaching C level, VP level, and director level
Yeah.
decision makers?
Yeah. No, I will be very precise here. Actually, it goes back to what you just mentioned a couple of minutes back, which is how do you be precise and resonate with the prospect or your customer with the right message, with the right initiative that they're doing, which means you not only focus on your market that you're targeting, that is one. Where do I focus? Instead of going after every customer, how do I focus on my 300 or 500 customers or prospects? The second part is digging deeper into each of the customers. For example, you're a security company and you're a salesperson or a marketing person. What if you were to know all the companies that are actually looking for security products right now and trying it, and then you filtering it down to the types of products that they're trying? If you know that, then what happens is your message is very targeted. Hey, security is important, zero trust is important, or compliance is important, and we have a state of art efficient solution, and we know our solution is much better than vendor ABC. Provided you know that they're already trying vendor A, you can be very targeted to say, hey, our solution is way better than vendor A. Here are the testimonials that we have from the 5 customers we won. Then anybody who's trying vendor A, when they look at the message, they're like, how do they know that, first of all, that we are trying a product, that we need such a product, and that, hey, I'm trying A. They seem to be claiming that they're better than that vendor A. I'm curious now. Let me go respond to Avetis who sent me this email and have a call. Then you get an immediate response. One email leads to one response. And a hyperscaler that we have today, which is one of the largest hyperscalers that we are serving today, have highest conversion rates with our intelligence. What they did is they did an experiment for 9 months. Without intelligence, the conversion rates from marketing and sales were close to 7%. With all the intelligence that we provided, they're close to 25%.
Wow, that's huge.
So they get a 1 to 4 conversion on everything that they target, because there are still people trying different things. They might still say, I'm not even interested in your product, right? Because I might be just experimenting. I'm not ready to have a budget right now. So that's the real example of this large
Huge.
hyperscaler.
The key was that they knew, because of the data you have, that you're using, let's say, another monitoring tool or something. Hey, I see you've been using Datadog. We have a better product or whatever. Yeah.
100%.
Interesting.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the right balance between automation and human decision making when businesses are using AI?
I think the journey has just begun. The only thing I can tell as a technologist, as an entrepreneur, is I don't want us to be fearful. I only see this leading to more and more jobs. Just like virtualization came in, we're all fearful that we don't need machines, we don't need that, we don't need this. Same thing happened when cloud came in, right? Same thing I see that we just need to upskill to using the tools that are out there to be more productive. But I think the number of problems that we can solve or we need to solve as humans using tools, automation, you call it, is endless, right? So from that sense, the journey has begun. I see for several years to be in this human-assisted AI era.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Still human in the loop is very much
like
necessary.
a simple thing like a payroll, right? Paycheck, as an example. Okay. This is an operation that has gone through many iterations of automation in our last 30 years, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be getting an automatic deposit in our payrolls today, right?
Exactly.
Many of us get it, right? So it's imagine that is going through the next level of automation, but it'll be several years before we know that it's all accurate, precise, and it's not, corrupt, or it's not, your money is not getting deposited into my account, or all of that, right?
Yeah.
So there are many such use cases that lead to maturity, but that means now If you're a finance person, you can now focus on the next level of use case, like, hey, what's the new regulation I need to be compliant with? Or what are the things that I can develop to give more value to my employees or the customers, people I support.
Speaking of paychecks, Rohini, I think my paycheck was actually accidentally sent to you, so I need you to return that. I'm glad you brought it up because it was awkward for me, but since you brought it up,
There you go.
no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. What risks or blind spots do companies need to watch out for when they're relying on AI-driven insights? Because in the last episode, we kind of talked a little bit about as good as AI is, as good as ChatGPT is, or whatever product you're using, it is just statistics right now. It's still just using statistics to guess the next kind of phrase or word or data, and sometimes it hallucinates. In fact, it hallucinates most of the time. So how do we make sure we're not, what are the blind spots we should be looking out for?
So I would categorize it into two parts. One is there are a lot of AI applications like Hedgy Insights as an example. It's based off of a curated data set. It has bounds. For example, we bound it to specifically the data that we have. So it's actually providing all the intelligence out of the data we have, like the 20 petabytes, 30 petabytes that I spoke about, right? In that case, there is no hallucination of any sort. It's basically searching for your needle in the haystack very quickly in seconds or milliseconds and solving a specific business problem, right? So a lot of such applications, and that's a question for a customer or a vendor to ask, hey, is this something that's coming out of a guesswork, or is this basically on a contained data?
Because you fed the contained data, so it's not hallucinating, it's not guessing, it's using your data to serve up the information.
Correct. We are using our data. We are training the model to only use the data. So it is not. So if it has no answer to the question, it will say, "I don't know. Avetis is not in my dictionary. Sorry, I don't know anything about him." It's as simple as that. But then there is a second cohort of use cases that are based off of general purpose public data, but then the models are all not just leveraging the data, but they're also dynamically predicting, guessing, like you said, hallucinating and creating all of that. In which case, all bets are off because we'll continue to make progress, but that is where a significant human assistance needs to be available. Let's say I'm researching on a university. Okay. Okay, you got the data. Like you can ask, hey, what products are being used at Microsoft? Technologies that are being used at Microsoft. Boom, it will generate something for you. But that data is all scraped off the internet. It might be outdated. It might be in some press releases. It might have been in somebody's document long back. And that might data, for example, that person would have even left the organization, right? But it is still guessing and telling you that, hey, Microsoft is using Salesforce CRM as a technology, but Microsoft has its own CRM, right?
Yes. Why would
Right.
it be
So,
using Salesforce?
so maybe there is a particular group that might be even using it, right? As a surprise. They're
Sure.
not 99%, but still. But there is a lot of that hallucination. This is where humans come into picture to see where is the real source of data. Is the data quality good? And the best way, simple answer is this data a general purpose internet source, like an internet snapshot, which ChatGPT and everyone uses, or a lot of the general models are using? If that's the case, everything has to be verified, especially if it's going to be applied in the business, even if it's employee communication, as an example. All right. Whereas if you are focused on a specific application, you can ask the vendor to say, hey, where is your source of data? And what is the quality of data? Like you said at the beginning of this meeting, it's the quality of data, the breadth of the data, the depth of the data, curation of the data, etc.
Really good. So
Yeah.
so it's almost like when you train a new employee or you raise your kids to say, if you don't know something, say you don't know it. So you're almost training these models not to make stuff up, which is
Yeah.
extremely important. If
Yeah.
you don't know, don't make it up. I like that.
Yes.
It's funny
That's
you have to actually say that, right? Um, Given the current economic climate, what trends are shaping how companies hire, scale, and invest in technology? What are you seeing?
So we see kind of two categories that are people are saying, hey, it's tools or people, right? It's the decision that's what they're making, both when they're optimizing and both when they're investing. For example, when they're optimizing, is my philosophy to cut people and be using tools to be efficient? Or do I want to cut tools but keep all my employees as is, right? So I think that's one thing that we are constantly seeing. It is purely a trend based on the culture of the company. There's no perfect answer. The business knows the perfect answer, what's right for them, whether I mean, I always say people are important, they're valuable asset, but again, there are efficiencies to be gained if you are to use certain tools, right? So that's the fine balance that every leader needs to strike as they're embarking, in the next 9 months, right? What is that I'm trying to optimize? Am I trying to optimize? And then one is optimization. The second big part is where am I reinvesting the optimized dollars, or how much am I reinvesting and where?
Mm.
For example, I might be optimizing my sales as an example, but then am I investing that in product or marketing? Or am I investing in maybe back into sales or some tooling like an AI sales tool that helps the 20 salespeople to be like acting like 40 salespeople? But that's all business decisions that need to be uh, evaluated.
I think one of the biggest impacts I see of having data be quickly fed to organization is in marketing purposes, right? Because marketing, like I never believed in marketing collateral because it was BS to me. I'm like just crap I throw on a PDF and send it to you. Like you don't care what I do, what our cloud does. You care about Rohini. So now if I can use data to quickly communicate to Rohini what challenges I think he has, what things he should be thinking about in his own business, and how Hire Cloud can help do that. Now we've got a winning formula.
Yeah.
But to do that without data is you're kind of shooting in the dark. So that's where I like how these things help with that. What strategies have you seen work well for leaders adapting to rapid change? Like you've seen, before big data was even a thing, people didn't talk about it, but you saw that shift. Then you saw, now you're seeing the AI revolution. Like, what are you seeing? Like, how do you quickly, what works well for leaders to be able to keep up and keep growing and not become dinosaurs?
No, this is another fantastic question. Maybe I'll use some examples here. I've gone through four transformations right now. Four transformations meaning walked into a company that was on premises, wanted to be needed to be a cloud company.
Mhm.
Okay. I walked into a traditional security company that needs to be modernized into an advanced security, cloud security company. Right. So every time you walk in, you see that there is a need to transform the business, and that's something that applies in this day and age because in 18-24 months there are going to be new winners, and with new solutions, it's the time for transformation. So for me, the transformation playbook has a few parts. I have used this four zones to win strategy. There's a nice book by Jeffrey Moore, and I know companies like Microsoft and others have used it. So in essence, what you do is you organize yourself into four zones. An existing zone that is actually driving productivity in your own existing products, trying to drive efficiencies, etc. But you take optimizations, you put it into a new zone called the innovation zone, right? Innovation zone is, hey, basically this is my next big bet, this is the next big offering that I'm going to launch, and you put the investments deliberately so that in 12 months, 18 months they're going to produce the results, right? It all goes back to you have a limited pool of resources. How do you put the right investments in the right place and drive that strategic alignment across the company? And the last variant that is I would say every company, of course, has to constantly transform, whether it's every 5 years, every 7 years, every 3 years. This time around, what seems to be very different is the market seems to be moving very fast, even unlike all the transformations that I have faced.
Mm-hmm.
And my fear as a CEO at this place is, are we transforming fast enough? Because the biggest element here is there's a human element, right? Any transformation means change to people in terms of what they do, how they do it, the tools that they embrace, everything. Now, when you change too fast, it breaks people and the rhythm of execution. But then, if the market is going too fast and if you don't change at the right pace, you might not even exist as a business because you might be irrelevant, right?
Exactly.
So we have many case studies in our history. People always take this blockbuster case study, and all the the camera companies case
Yeah.
studies, etc., that have all struggled and so on. So we're going to have complete different list of S&P 500 companies in like 7 years
That's
because now there
incredible.
are new winners. So that's one thing that I am very cognizant of. There's no perfect answer, but as long as we are aware as leaders that change is needed and we need to organize ourselves for transformation and change, how do you bring people along? But keeping the market pace in mind is important, right? So it's a fine balance of all of this.
Change is inevitable. Like, if you don't disrupt your own business, it's going to get disrupted anyway, with or without you. You might as well be the one. And yes, it's scary for some people because their roles change and sometimes their roles are eliminated and sometimes they're eliminated. And it's scary because at the end of the day, they don't do this for fun. Us crazy entrepreneurs might at a point in our career where we just do things for fun, but these people go to work to feed their their kids, their family. So sometimes that fear drives not only their lack of change, but also the companies, right? Because as a leader of a company, you're a leader of your people. Sometimes you're careful because a change will disrupt and make things uncomfortable to people, and you don't want to lose them and freak them out and so on and so forth. So those are all very good points. What I've found that's very helpful, Rohini, is constantly communicating with your team.
100%.
Constantly communicating. Every time we have a change, we vocally talk about it during one of our meetings. I don't need a big town hall. I don't need a big quarterly to talk about it. I might bring it up in one of the meetings, and just say, look, guys, we're experimenting with this AI agent that's going to help us do this. This is what we think it could do. It might do nothing and we get rid of it. Hey, we just hired someone. We're experimenting with this. Could it affect your role? Sure, but I think it's going to affect it in a positive way. This is what we're seeing in the industry. We're constantly communicating where they're not scared because there's nothing happening behind their back, behind closed doors, that's rapidly going to tomorrow just show up and destroy them. It's just whatever happens, they're seeing it happen and they're part of it a lot of times.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think you touched upon communication as a critical pillar. The way I always frame it in my head and my all my plans is there is strategy, there is team that is aligned to the strategy to execute, or the team
Mm-hmm.
has to be aligned, or the right team. There is execution, your operational rhythm and execution practices. And the last one, but the most important one, is communication. Strategy, team, execution, communication, right? And because you can do all the three, but if you don't communicate, then it's anxiety among people, and you will not have that information flow through the organization, and that becomes a challenge too.
And what I've learned and read and talked to people about and seen from others is what people don't hear is what scares them,
Yeah,
right? A lot of the time, what
yeah,
they think is happening is much scarier than what is actually happening,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
You might be on the back end using data and AI to make their lives easier and for them to go faster and earn more money. Yet in the meantime, in their heads, they're thinking, oh my God, they're coming up with this solution so that they eliminate me. Oh my
Yes,
God, I'm going to lose my job. Well, and they might fight against it.
yes,
But if you communicate what you're doing and how you're doing and how you're going about it,
yeah,
then there's less fear and there's an open dialogue and someone to say, hey, I'm a little concerned about this. How does it affect my role since I don't do this or I do this? And then you could be honest. And if the truth is scary, they should know now so that they can plan for themselves. Right?
100%, 100%.
That's huge. What's next for your company, and how do you see kind of your role and your company's role and how AI is powered business strategy?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things that we discovered in the last few months is the underlying underpinning is the data, like call it the data quality, the magic, whether you have proprietary data or not. Because if it's public data, then everybody can grab it, right? That is one underpinning that we are honing in on, because that has been our differentiation for 15 years now. And we have acquired companies and we're trying to bring all the data together at a company level. And the second one is layering co-pilot experience and autonomous agents on top of the data is how customers can get immediate time to value in terms of solving a use case or seeing what's in that data, right? For us, for all purposes, the way we see it is the SaaS platforms are dead. It's really, your solutions that you offer to customers being offered as a service, which are the autonomous agents, are going to be the real way forward. So that's kind of our strategy and path forward, which is underlying strong data, which is we are calling it the data intelligence fabric, and then layering that with co-pilots and autonomous agents, where customers can get context-aware real-time insights to drive revenue growth, etc. So it's exciting times for us.
That's really good. Rohini, what about service businesses, right? That makes sense for software companies, software as a service companies, data companies, so on and so forth. How about for service companies? How do they deal with this, and how do they win from it, frankly?
Yeah, yeah. So I think two things, right? One is service as a software is the norm, right? Or going to be the norm, where your advisory, your service, your consulting can be done as an agent, and you can interact with an agent. It's essentially offering a service as an agent, right? The use case that we just spoke about a few minutes back, the TAM, SAM, SOM. Like, I'm trying to understand my market sizing. What happens today is people get various reports, they interact with people, they're trying to create this market sizing planning. It takes few months to really understand what's my real opportunity. Now imagine you can interact with an agent or an autonomous agent by asking the same questions, and the agent is able to pull the right information from the back end and craft something customized for you, that's basically providing you a service as an agent. And that's going to be the new economy, I would say. The second part of it is the human element of the services economy, right? Like, for example, a lot of services companies that provide talent or human. And for them also, it's a disruptive time, because they can differentiate now by upskilling their talent. They can compete and offer high quality talent. For example, a good example I can say is, when I was an engineering leader for a long time, you can hire the brilliant, smart engineers from Silicon Valley, paying lots of money, but then for the money, you get high quality work and results, etc. Right? At the same time, you have consulting firms who are able to offer services or people at a lower cost, but you get the proportionately the according quality, right? For the money you pay, you get a different quality, right? You might not get exactly the same quality as what you get in a Silicon Valley, as an example. Now, by upskilling the people, with the right tool skill set, they can produce the same outcome as an expensive person. That leads to disrupting, it changes the way employment works. It changes the way the service company can work, right? So it's also upon the services company to go through a transformation and say, how do I upskill my talent so that they can operate like a high quality engineer, high quality SDR, high quality marketing person, etc. Or take all their experience that they have developed over years and create agents out of it and say, hey, I'm going to create these service agents that are going to provide the same service. So there are two elements there.
That's huge. Rohini, any last piece of advice you have for folks looking to leverage data more effectively?
No, first of all, I think it's wonderful to be on your show. Thanks for having me. And like I said, these are disruptive times in the market. All the business leaders are thinking about two things. How do I drive growth? How do I bring operational efficiency? This is absolutely the perfect time to look at data and intelligence as the right tool to guide your decisions, right? So develop your growth playbooks, churn reduction playbooks, customer retention playbooks, however you want to call it, as your strategic priorities. Do it using the intelligence so that your decisions are grounded in data. Then you're going to get the right results. Otherwise, what happens is you're just going to do a lot of things and you realize 9 months later that you don't have any outcome, and you lose your time to market. So that's where hedging insight comes into picture.
That's
We're
huge.
happy to share our growth playbooks, what we are doing internally, and we have some best practices from Fortune 100 companies because we partner closely with them on how they are growing successfully. So would love to get feedback from people. Happy to share, learn.
Yeah, please. I personally would love that, because we're definitely looking to grow and scale here as well. Rohini, where can people find you, and how do they connect with you about anything, especially HG Insights product and services and all that?
So our website is a good starting point, hedgeinsights.com. My email address is a starting point, rohini.kasturi@hedgeinsights.com. People can send me an email. And depending on the question, need they have, happy to find the right help. If it means me getting involved and talking to a fellow CEO and sharing some ideas, happy to do that. It's
Great.
always mutually beneficial. So
This has
we
been
learn.
amazing. Rohini, thank you for doing that. Thank you for being here and adding so much value. I've learned so much about data from you. So, looking forward to continuing to connect and hopefully our folks get a lot of value out of this great session. Thank you, Rohini. Have a great
Thank you
one.
so much for having me.
You.
Appreciate
Take
it.
care.
Good day. Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of another great episode of the Tech Leaders Playbook. I want to thank you for joining us and hope you took away some valuable insights to apply in your professional journey. Don't forget to subscribe on your preferred podcast platform so you don't miss out on the next great conversation. I promise it'll be good. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd appreciate if you could leave us a review. Your feedback not only helps us improve, but it also helps others discover the podcast. Better leaders mean better working environments. Better working environments leads to happier people. Remember, a rising tide lifts all boats. I'm Avetis Antaplyan, and this has been the Tech Leaders Playbook. Keep leading, keep learning, keep giving, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, stay inspired, my friends.